Everybody, welcome to Vikings Report Rewind. I am your humble host, Ted Glover. With me are my usual partners in crime. I got the founder, lead blogger, and numero uno honcho over at the SB Nation Vikings website, the Daily Norseman, Christopher Gates. And Drew Huggy Bear Bunting has checked in.
Yeah, pimping, baby! Pimping!
And then in the background, of course, doing all the good stuff that's making this possible is the greatest producer in the history of YouTube producing, Ruby Bunting. Gentlemen, welcome to 5 and 1.
I'm just waiting for Drew to tell me that I better have his money. Good Lord.
You know, with the Miami Dolphins theme, Drew, you look like a guy that's been chased down by Crockett and Tubbs, man.
Totally, man. We are pimping for the victory, guys. We won again.
5 and 1. All right, so look, before we get going.
9-3-0, and we won again.
Before we get going, shout out to everybody that's in our chat room right now.
Hello, everybody. Hello, everybody.
We're gonna be giving away a prize at the end of the show. All you got to do is make a comment. Just make yourself known. Ruby will put your name down. And at the end of the show, she's got a great electronic wheel of Kuntz's Destiny that will pick the winner. So just say hi. Just say, hey, how's it going? Whatever. If you want to go talk about this game after the fact, go to purplepainforums.com, our official message board for Vikings Report. They got a bunch of great stuff. I was on there a little bit today. But man, it feels good to be 5 and 1, don't it, boys?
Oh, Chris, how you feeling, Chris Gates?
Man, what? We keep saying nothing can ever be easy with this team, and it never is. But yeah, 5 and 1 is great. I mean, especially given everything else that's happened over the past few days in the NFL. Yeah, it's hard to complain about 5 and 1 right now.
And let's add to the fact the Green Bay Packers got pantsed at home by the New York Jets.
Did they lose?
The Packer down, they're 3-3. The Vikings are free and clear by essentially 3 games now.
I didn't know that. I don't know any of the scores because I don't know any of the scores.
The Packers not only lost at home to the Jets, they lost at home to the Jets by 3 scores.
No!
27-10.
Oh my God. Everybody
in the final score?
27-10.
Are you 27-10?
Mm-hmm.
There's a new sheriff in the NFC North, baby.
Yep.
So the Vikings hit their bye week.
God.
Yeah, the Vikings hit their bye week in some pretty tall cotton, boys. They moved to 5-1 with a 24-16 win over the Miami Dolphins. I got to tell you, that first half though was about as exciting as a 7-verse hymn at a Missouri Synod Lutheran church service.
I pointed it out several times, and there are people throwing around the stats they're throwing around the stat on social media. The Dolphins defense in their first 5 games had generated exactly 3 3-and-outs. They had 4 on the first 4 drives that the Vikings had this afternoon. That was, I don't know what the hell was going on with the offense, but that was ugly for about the first 25 minutes or so.
It was. And go ahead, Drew.
No, you can't start like that.
No.
Especially on the road.
They had 4 3-and-outs to start. Miami had a 10-play drive, no points. 8-play drive, no points. A 3-and-out, and then a 9-play drive that ended up in a field goal. And at some point, with not a whole lot of time left in the first half, I can't remember exactly when it was. The starting quarterback for the Miami Dolphins, Skylar
Thompson.
I wanted to say Skylar White, but that's from Breaking Bad. Skylar Thompson hurt his thumb and had to go to the locker room. And a man who goes down in Vikings lore for a lot of different reasons, current Dolphins quarterback Teddy Bridgewater entered the game. And honestly, the way Bridgewater played for about most of that game, other than the last few minutes of the fourth quarter, that seemed like a huge advantage for the Vikings guys.
It was. I mean, he wasn't good. I mean, he was generating a lot of 3-and-outs for Miami, and he had some bad turnovers and took a bunch of sacks. I think the Vikings wound up with 6 sacks on the afternoon. I can't remember how many were of Thompson, but they got Bridgewater a bunch of times. So that was pretty good for the Vikings, I think.
Drew, what was going through your head? So with let's see, I wrote this down. At one point, with 6 minutes left in the first half, the Minnesota Vikings had run 12 offensive plays. You want to take a guess on how many yards they had in total offense?
Dude, it's like being caught in the middle of a bad drug high or something. Like you've been up every time you watch the Vikings, it's like you've been up for 4 days. It's like,
okay, so look,
what the hell is going on with this team, man?
Here's the deal: we got to keep.
How many yards was it, Ted?
15 yards, and we got to keep doing Miami Vice references throughout the show.
With the cocaine playground there in Miami. First off, hello everybody in the chat. I bet you they're fired up. I bet you're seeing a lot of fired up comments. I don't see them, but you're seeing them
for the most part.
This team is like the first 4 drives. I'm going, what in the hell are we doing? But just like the past month and a half, whenever the Vikings need a drive or need something, they seem to get it. But they seem to not want to put their foot on the throat of the defense, though. It's weird. And then they had 4 3-and-outs, Chris, and then they had a drive where they had 3 first downs on 3 plays.
Yes, they did. That's exactly right.
What?
I don't get it.
So Skylar Thompson goes out. Teddy comes in. The Dolphins had one good drive, and the Vikings defense seemed completely confused. But the Dolphins committed 5 penalties on that drive and negated a couple of huge plays. One which would have been first and goal on the 2, and they would have at minimum gotten a field goal out of that. But they ended up with no points thanks to all the penalties. And then Teddy comes in, they drive right down to kick a field goal, and it's 3-0. And you're thinking, man, why are we chewing glass again? Why am I being chased by Crockett and Tubbs for something I didn't do? They're on the take, and they're going to frame me for something I didn't do. But then, like you said, Drew, they go 7 plays for 75 yards. JJ had a big catch, and it was a 1 yard touchdown, and it's 7-3. And then they had that interception that Kendricks and Harrison Smith combined to put like 15 hands under the ball. I mean, like Jonathan Vilma and Kenny Albert wondering, well, I wonder, did the ball hit the ground on that play? No, dude. There were like 4 hands underneath the ball. There is no way that ball hit the ground. And so once again, so the Vikings get the interception, kick a field goal, and once again, as we go into half, Teddy Bridgewater got points for the Vikings within 2 minutes of the first half ending. Just like old times.
Yeah.
Drew, that was a funny joke. I think you should have laughed. Come on, man.
There was,
Come on, man.
No, there's times when you start to get faith in the Vikings, and then you don't know whether they're hanging on the offense or hanging on the defense, but the defense, and you look at the points at the end of the game, there's 5 minutes left, and Dolphins have 10 points. So how can you hang it on anything on the defense? But there's that drive, the one at the end of it. I want to first, and I'm not trying to jump ahead, but I know everybody on the planet is wondering one thing.
What's that?
Why would the Dolphins go for 2 at the end?
I don't know. I'm glad they did.
I am too, but I imagine people in the chat are wondering the same thing. But that's ahead of ourselves. Let's go back to where you're at. Yeah, they gave up points. It was sluggish. It was a sluggish first half, but I really felt like I felt like we're getting all the bad stuff out of our system, Ted, and we're going to start shredding. That's what I felt like.
Once they got that touchdown drive in the second half, I sort of thought so. And then after that interception, there was a big play. There was a pass interference call on Adam Thielen. He almost made a heck of a catch. Got the Vikings deep into Miami territory. And I want to ask you guys this question, because the Vikings had a 1st and 10 on the Miami 20 after that pass interference play. There was 13 seconds left in the half. The Vikings had 1 timeout left. The Vikings handed the ball off to Dalvin Cook for 5 yards, took a timeout, and then kicked the field goal to go into the locker room up 10-3 at halftime. Did you guys agree with that run call, Chris? Did you think, because I kind of thought with 13 seconds left, they had time from the 20 for 1 or 2 plays with the timeout, definitely had time for a couple plays to get closer to the end zone and maybe call a timeout, and maybe if they're on the 5 or 6, they got 2 shots to score a touchdown. But I'm open to suggestions here on that one.
I agree with the ultimate decision, lining up with the field goal and whatnot. I did think that they should have taken 1 shot into the end zone after the Cook run, because they probably would have had enough time to do that, barring a sack. But yeah, I was surprised they didn't at least try to take 1 shot into the end zone there. But in a game like this where points were kind of at a premium, nobody was doing anything for most of the first half. I don't have a huge heartburn with them going for the field goal there and setting up for it the way they did.
Drew, thoughts on that? Did you like the run, and do you think they should have been more aggressive trying to get a touchdown?
Let me preempt this by saying, and I said this to Toonces during the game, throughout the first 6 games of the season, I absolutely love O'Connell's play calling inside the 10-yard line.
Okay.
He has done great. He's not running it up the middle and throwing an incomplete, kicking a field goal. He's going to the air right away. So I want to get that. That's probably the best part of his offensive play calling is his stuff inside the 10 all season. He's gone play action, touchdown. He's a great play caller in there. I mean, we'll talk about the stuff out the 50-yard line later, but that specific scenario when they kicked that field goal, I didn't have a problem with the way the first half was going. You take the 3 points and you go in the locker room you tell your team that, we added some points, you give them some positive feeling. Uh-huh. The thing I didn't like was 7 seconds left was the pass out of bounds. Just kick it. Okay. I mean, you're taking another snap. It could go over his head. You could bounce off somebody's helmet for an interception. A bunch of stuff could happen with a snap. Okay. And there's no sense in doing a play where you're just going to chuck it out of bounds. That was like dumb. Kick the field goal and just, it came out okay, but why even run that play unless you're going to really seriously if you're going to go to the end zone on that scenario, you're going on first down. You are.
Okay. That's fair enough. But so either way, the Vikings end up with a 10-3 halftime lead. And it sort of felt like even though Miami was getting the ball to start the second half, the Vikes sort of figured it out by the end of the first half. Did you expect them to be as sluggish offensively to start the second half, Drew?
It was really frustrating. You got a chance for the kill shot 3 different times. At the 40, they had it at the 45, then they had it at the 50. They had it at the 34-yard line when they faked that punt and didn't make it.
Oh, God.
They lost 5 yards on first down. They lost 1 yard on second down, Chris, and then they had an incomplete pass. And I'm staring at the TV going, you couldn't have pissed that away. Those are the moments. No, in the NFL, those are the moments you got to make them pay.
Yes.
And the Vikings have had 3 or 4 times this year where they've had a chance to, all right, we're going to hammer them down on their idiotic play call, and they didn't do it again, Chris.
This team is just completely incapable of taking advantage of gifts they're given by the other team. I mean, that fake punt call, that was stupid. That was straight up stupid. It was a terrible call, and Metellus made a hell of a play he wound up taking the ball away. And
we did nothing with it.
Yeah. No, we, like you said, we went backwards. I mean, we had penalties, we have bad play. You said the play calls inside the 10 are awesome, and they have been. There's been some play calls in other spots that have been just shake your head and shrug your shoulders. You're like, what the hell are we looking at here? I have no idea what the hell's going on. But yeah, this team got some gifts in some other games too, and completely failed to take advantage. And yeah, one of these days it's going to come back and bite them. But fortunately, it didn't today.
So,
wait, Ted, what are your thoughts on that fake punt and then they take over? What were you thinking?
I thought that was a stupid call by Miami to open the half.
Oh, it was dumb.
You're only down 10-3, and neither team had played particularly well. The Dolphins' defense was playing very well, minus that one touchdown drive the Vikings had late in the second quarter.
Sure.
I thought you kick it there and try and make the Vikings offense do something. I thought maybe they had gotten on track, but if you're Miami, you can also say to yourself, they haven't done anything minus that one drive. We'll take away what they did that drive, and we'll pin them deep. We'll get field position, and then we'll go from there. And the exact opposite happened. I mean, speaking of field position, let's go back. The highlight of the first half was the Ryan Wright 70-yard punt.
How many yards was that? I didn't have the volume on.
It wound up being 75.
I don't watch the games with volume. My volume is on 0.
He got 73 on the punt, and then there was a 2-yard loss on the return, so it wound up being 75. That was ridiculous. I mean, because the Vikings were pinned deep. They were at like their own 10 or their own 12 or something like that. And Ryan Wright just said, to hell with you, Joe Boo. I'll do it myself. And
kind of the exact opposite of what happened last week against.
When he had that 5-yarder.
When he had that shank, yeah.
That was great.
You talk about that first sequence with the Josh Metellus made a heck of a play to stop that fake punt. The Vikings end up fourth. They started on the 34, 4th and 22. They got a punt. Miami's second drive of the game. Patrick Jones the second, who had a whale of a ball game.
Yes,
got a second sack. The Vikings start on their own 40. Again, great field position. They had a manageable 3rd and 7, and like primetime Kirk shows up and throws a 2-yard check down to Irv Smith.
What the hell was that?
Oh, God. I wanted to throw, I wanted to throw things.
That's some of the play calling we were talking about earlier. I don't understand so much of I know they're still getting used to the scheme and they're still getting used to the system and whatnot, but I mean, I don't understand a lot of what they're doing on offense. I really don't.
You know what, guys? We're at week 6? They got a bye coming up so they can work on some stuff. But first down at the 34-yard line of the Dolphins, nothing. First down at like the 45, nothing. Rager returns that punt to midfield, nothing. That kind of shit comes back to grab you towards the end of the year. It does. You can lose games by that.
At that point, Drew, when Rieger had that really nice punt return, again, Vikings out to midfield, had great field position, went 3 and out. They had 7 first downs at that point and 8 3 and outs. 7 first downs, and I think they got 4 or 5 of those first downs in that lone touchdown drive at the end of the first half.
Mm-hmm.
That's not good. And I'm not trying to bring the crowd down. We won. We're 5-1. I'm hyped with you. I'm fired up with you. But things like that we're talking about, 7 first down. You have more 3 outs than first downs. You need to get that fixed, guys.
I don't know. I don't know how many tight end screens we've run to this point in the season. That page of the playbook needs to be ripped out and set on fire. The screen pass
for
to
no
Johnny
gain,
Bunt,
no gain every time.
If you have like Travis Kelce or something like that at tight end, that's fine. Screen passes to Johnny Bunt are not
terrible.
A thing, and they should not be a thing. Ever
should not.
Just stop.
Ever.
Jesus.
You know that pass down the sidelines they hit Jefferson on in the second half, that 40-yard pass?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they run that play and the guy he's tackled, and then all I hear is Toonses say, that's what you should be doing the whole game. You know what? And Toonses is absolutely right. That is an attacking offense doing a play like that, but you shouldn't wait 40 plays to run that. You shouldn't.
Real quick, we got over 600 people in the chat room right now. First of all, thank you so much for joining us.
Let's
Welcome
go.
to Vikings Report Rewind. I'm Ted. He's Drew on the bottom of the screen, off to my right there. Right, I think. I don't know. Whatever.
Either way,
he's
Chris. Christopher Gates.
Off to my right is Chris. If you want to be entered for our prize, go ahead and just make a comment in the comments in the live chat below. You'll be entered to win a prize at the end of the show from our Vikings Report vault. Go to VikingsReport.com. Check out the prize vault. You'll be happy if you win, because there's a lot of cool stuff in there.
I like the prize vault. I like it.
You talked about, Drew, that last play. It was the last play of the third quarter. The Vikings had, I think it was I can't remember what down it was, but Kirk came up to the line. He audibled out of that and checked. He saw one-on-one coverage, threw it to Justin Jefferson. Beautiful throw.
Right.
AJ caught it in stride. I thought he was going to score. He got knocked out of bounds inside the 10. The Vikings go ahead and score on a Adam Thielen touchdown, 2-yard touchdown. And Greg Joseph missed the extra point. It's 16-3.
Come on, dude.
Was that an moment? Because every week in a Vikings game where you think, oh, here it comes. Was that the moment for you guys where you thought, oh man, the Vikings might Teddy Bridgewater at home in Miami against his former team? Chris, did you think there was some weird mojo maybe happening there?
It was an moment after the Dolphins took the ball in the next drive and just walked down the field with no resistance to make it 16-10, because you're like,
oh, that was aggravating.
That missed extra points totally coming into play now, because know they it is 16-10, they get another touchdown, they kick the extra point, and all of a sudden they're ahead. So the missed extra point itself wasn't quite so much. It was the way the Dolphins responded to that drive, and there was no resistance on that drive from the defense. They just basically walked down and scored and made it 16-10. And it was that point you were like,
freaking irritating.
Yeah. So it's 16-10 and the Vikings get the ball back. And this is something that just jumped out at me, and it kind of added to my angst, if you will. The Vikings had a 3rd and 1. Dalvin Cook at that point in the game, I think it had 10 carries for maybe 15 yards. On a previous 3rd and 1, they gave the ball to CJ Ham to get the first down.
Right.
I thought, look, it's 3rd and 1. Give the ball to your guy, and if he can't, then maybe you don't deserve to win the game. And the Vikings not only didn't give the ball to Dalvin Cook, they had trips left, I think it was, and Kirk threw it to Adam Thielen on 3rd and 1, who was still short of the sticks had he even caught the ball. And I was absolutely livid at that point in the Vikings offense, because I sort of thought this might be it, boys.
I have nothing to add to that. I was the same way going. I mean, you got to attack all the time. I mean, that's what O'Connell needs to figure out. He's having way too many drives where he's going conservative, and that what you just said, it was a perfect example of, come on, man, you want play to win, play to get the first down.
And on that drive, so when the Vikings got the ball, I wrote this down because I thought, okay, here we go. Dolphins scored at 16-10. if the Vikings can eat up 5 or 6 minutes of the game clock, drive down the field, and either score at least minimum kick a field goal, it's 19-10. And unless a whole bunch of weird stuff happens, this game is in the bag. And they went 3 and out, and they had a horrible play design, play call, execution. Well, however, all 3 on 3rd down, and they have to kick the ball back to Miami. And at that point, I thought, not really happy with the way this thing is going.
No, I totally agree. Same kind of. It should not be possible to throw short of the sticks on 3rd and 1. You need 1 yard. Throw the ball. The stick is like you can literally reach out and touch the stick.
It's
throw
so
the ball past the stick.
So Clint Kubiak, come on.
Oh, God.
Now here's where I thought the Vikings were in serious trouble. So they can't convert that 3rd and 1.
Right.
Miami gets the ball back. They have a 3rd and 19. Teddy hit Tyreek Hill on a catch and run and made it 4th and 5, and they converted. They also had a 3rd and 15, and he hit Jalen Waddle for another huge catch and run. But Harrison Smith and Cameron Bynum made what I think is the play of the game with that fumble. Smith forced the fumble. Cam Bynum recovered it. Vikings got the ball. And I don't know about you guys, but I breathed a huge sigh of relief.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You know what? If the culture hasn't changed, you know what's changed is getting timely plays.
Yes.
And for another week, the Vikings get a really they really needed that at that point, and it happened, and we got it. And Bynum got it on the hop. It was beautiful. It was just like, Ted, those are the things that losing cultures don't get. The Vikings have been getting a lot of that. The double doink, you could name off a big list of big plays during the crucial handful of plays. That was one of them.
That was one. That I would argue that was the biggest crucial handful of plays.
But yeah, I felt the same way. Like, oh, geez, man, we dodged another bullet.
And then maybe for the first time all afternoon, the Vikings played complimentary football. That's when finally Dalvin Cook broke out, hit that 58-yard run. It was 24-10, and for all intents and purposes, the game was over. I mean, it wasn't. Of course, the Vikings made it exciting because it's the Minnesota Vikings. But man, for as maligned as the Vikings offense was this game, they still scored 24 points. For as maligned as the Vikings defense has been, they only gave up 16 points and essentially 10 in meaningful football. Right. I mean, yeah, Teddy Bridgewater ended up with over 300 yards. And somebody mentioned earlier, giving up 300 yards to Teddy Bridgewater passing was inexcusable. He probably got 75, 80 of that on that last drive.
Passing,
catch and run.
They're passing every down because they're behind. So it's not surprising he's going to get yards. And yeah, that Jalen Waddle play, that's the thing about the Vikings. All right, I'm feeling good. Cook runs it in. Yeah, we're going to win. And then the first play is like a 60-yard wide receiver screen, and you're going, what? Why can't it be a 6-yard gain? Why can't it be a 10-yard gain? Why is it a 60-yard? It's a Vikings, dude. But I'm not. Teddy had a lot of yards because he had to throw a lot.
Teddy was harassed. He threw 2 interceptions. That second interception by Patrick Peterson, he absolutely, I think he 100% baited Teddy on that pick. He dropped back. Teddy kind of telegraphed a play. Peterson made the adjustment, went up and completely fooled him on that play.
Oh,
great play.
He absolutely did. Definitely. He had a hell of a game today too.
He did. He absolutely did. Yeah. So let's talk about the state of the NFC North, boys.
Yeah.
Vikings are 5-1. Packers are 3-3. Bears are 2-4, and wore absolutely horrible uniforms on Thursday Night Football. Did you guys?
Oh,
when you guys were kids,
orange helmets.
When you guys were kids, did you have an ice cream truck come running through your neighborhood?
Yeah, you had the best weed. He had great weed.
You had a different ice cream truck guy than I did. But my ice cream truck guy used to sell these things called push-ups. You ever have a push-up?
Oh yeah.
It was an orange sherbet, like a little toilet roll thing. That's exactly what the Bears uniforms look like. Oh, the little Orange Server push-up on Thursday.
God, they're so bad. They're so bad.
They're 2-4. The Lions are 1-5. The Vikings have a commanding lead of the NFC North at this
Did the Lions lose today? I don't know the score.
This is their bye week.
Yeah, they're on the bye. They're bye.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So they're what? Actually, the Lions are 1-4, I think, right?
I think they're
Same difference. Same. They're not.
Yeah.
4.
Yeah. So, how do you see? So the Vikings go into the bye. How do you see them coming out of the bye? I mean, Drew. First of all, credit to you, Drew Bunning, because out of us three, one of us called 5-1 heading into.
That was Chris Gates.
Right here.
Here's the old sheet from that show we did like 4 months ago.
I had the loss in a different spot, but yeah.
Yeah, Chris Gates had us at 5-1, and Ted, you and I were at 4-2.
But then
on this is notes from that April show or May, whenever the schedule came out.
But before the season, you changed it, Drew. You both said 5-1.
I said 6-1 by Halloween.
Oh yeah, that's right, 6-1 by Halloween.
And they're right on line for that.
And you don't want to say that there's soft games in the National Football League or anything, but they got a bit of a soft landing coming out of the bye here because
Arizona, Washington.
Yeah, they host Arizona in week 8 and they travel to Washington in week 9. I mean, you don't want to look too far ahead, but this could pretty realistically be 7-1 by the time. And then they go to Buffalo, which I think we all think is going to be a little bit of a I don't know what we're expecting for that one, but they go to Buffalo 7-1.
Yeah, then they go to Buffalo, have Dallas at home, have the Patriots at home, and then they go play the New York Jets, who are suddenly a very good football team.
Right.
Yep.
So where do you see this team heading?
Pretty stoked we're 5-1 going into the bye. I don't know.
If your answer is anything other than Super Bowl, you're fired.
I don't know. I'm pleased with the first 6 games. I mean, to only lose one and to lose that tough Philly game, which I thought we were going to lose to begin with. I'm extremely happy going into the bye, get some guys healthy, and then come out firing on all cylinders again. Let's go.
Well, Nelson Williams kind of disagrees with your take about the Cardinals, Chris. He says, I don't know about that. Arizona Cardinals are next. And the Vikings are terrible with running quarterbacks. And he's not wrong about that. I mean, Teddy. Oh, go ahead.
No, I mean, he's absolutely right. Those are the kind of quarterbacks that give the Vikings trouble a lot of the time. But I mean, the Cardinals haven't been good for most of the year. I mean, I don't know if the Kyler, guy just completely blanked on his last name.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Murray.
Kyler Midget
connection. Yeah. If the Kyler Murray Call of Duty connection is like a thing, but we'll have to see if the new Call of Duty game is coming out here soon. Because there was some weird thing that, as soon as the new Call of Duty game comes out for the video game systems or whatever, he just completely goes in the toilet. So,
he is 9 and 17 lifetime after the Call of Duty comes out.
Yeah.
When does Call of Duty hit the streets?
And
I don't know.
And he's 14 and 5 before Call of Duty comes out.
Wow.
Let's see when the new.
That's good information right there, Ted Glover.
That is a tasty tidbit.
So Dan Hanneman says Greenway jersey is still in effect. 5-0 with the VR Greenway jersey he won. So Dan, obviously, I'm a firm believer in fan superstition. That is a thing. Dan Hanneman must wear the Chad Greenway jersey for the rest of the year.
Come on, Dan, be a fan. Be a Vikings Report fan and wear that goddamn jersey every week.
Vikings Uncensored says someone said Murray an advanced copy of the new Call of Duty.
Okay, well the new Call of Duty game comes out on the 28th, and we don't play the Cardinals till the 30th, so it's after Call of Duty comes out. So
6-1 on Halloween, 6-1, baby, 6-1.
He's gonna be pulling a couple of all-nighters. He's not gonna know what the hell's going on. He'll be fine.
That comes out 2 days before the game. Kyler Murray's going to get absolutely zero sleep for the 2 nights before. Nice.
I want to ask you guys a question about this game.
Go ahead, Drewster.
Honestly, the Dolphins played a terrible game. They made so many mistakes in this game.
They did.
And you can't, if teams are going to make mistakes, you have to capitalize on them. Where exactly do you feel about this going forward? I mean, what the Dolphins really botched this game in a lot of different areas. I mean, there's like 10 or 20 places they screwed this game up. Is that the Vikings did enough to win, or where do they sit with you guys in terms of this game?
Chris, go ahead.
I mean, like we said earlier, I mean, I don't know whether it's a combination of, or whether it's more heavily weighted toward, the Vikings doing enough to win or their opponents, making enough mistakes where they win. But the way we talked about earlier, the Vikings have not taken enough advantage of a lot of the mistakes that opponents have made, and they're still winning. Like we had the fake punt stop today. They didn't really take advantage of that. We had, the Philadelphia game where they kept getting inside the Philly 30-yard line and then turning the ball over. They had opportunities there. If the Vikings can figure out how to take advantage of these opportunities that other teams are giving them, I think we'll be able to feel a little more comfortable about this team. But we're going to have to see what happens with that, because that's something they definitely need to fix going forward. I don't know how you fix it, but if the other team is going to keep giving you opportunity after opportunity, you eventually have to make a pay for it.
Right.
At some point, yeah, you do this, it's going to cost you. But when the Vikings, so in the last 2 or 3 years, when the Vikings have been given a chance to seize momentum in a football game and didn't take advantage of it, they seem to not only not take advantage of the momentum, but just kind of go like, oh, not our day, or what, and something would, not our day or whatever, and something would happen, and they would give it back to the opponent.
It's a great point. Great point.
And this year, the Vikings, even if they're not taking advantage of situations, which it's frustrating, don't get me wrong, I don't like it either, but at least they're not caving, and they're not, just kind of shrugging their shoulders and doing the, oh, here we go again, when something goes against them. They're at least being resilient enough to not let that affect them, and staying mentally tough and in the game, and figuring out a way to win. And look, you could talk about, well, the Vikings were against, a third string quarterback and then the backup quarterback and Teddy, and they probably should have lost, but they didn't. Well, you know what? Most of my lifetime, since they moved inside to the Metrodome, the Vikings have sucked outside and on grass, and they never play well in those environments. And they had a bunch of crap go against them today, and they still figured out a way to win. And the defense stopped the Dolphins when they had to, and the Vikings scored enough points to win. So suck it, haters. They won.
That's how I look at it too. The ESAT Nation is going, well, they're not as good as they need to be. You know what? It comes down to if you won the game or not. That's what it comes down to. The Vikings are figuring out how to win. And pretty soon, Ted, that becomes contagious in the locker room, where the guys go out in the field and go, we're not going to lose this game because we're going to figure out how to win, because that's what we've been doing. It all rolls over. It rolls over into playing. I mean, you look at Patrick Peterson today with his great play. The defense had 6 sacks. Sure, they gave up some, the Vikings overall have a lot to improve on. But like Harrison Smith said, we're winning and we're learning. Better than losing and learning.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You don't suck if you're 5-1. You don't.
No, you don't.
Nope.
Drew, you and I have talked about, well, all three of us have talked about this, but I think Drew and I have a little bit longer in the tooth than you are, Chris, regarding old school Vikings. Drew, you and I have said, I remember as a kid, the 1970s era, the Purple People Eater Vikings. And oh, by the way, this is the first time the Vikings have won in Miami since 1976. And I remember that game. The Vikings had a 99-yard drive and won 31-7. They absolutely rolled Miami that day.
Parkenden and Foreman, baby.
Yeah. But we have said, look, I want a team that goes out and expects to win. They expect to win, and no matter what happens, something bad will happen. They won't let it affect them, and they'll figure out a way. And this team is starting to do that. You look at the first 6 games, they don't buckle when something goes against them. They just sort of bear down and work their way through it. Other than 1 week, they sort of bear down and they work their way through it and figure out a way to win. And if you go back and look at those 1970 teams, and I'm not saying the Vikings are as good as the Purple People Eaters era yet, because they're not. But right now they have a little bit in common with that era in that team. If you go back and look at those scores, the Vikings won a lot of football games, but a lot of them were close. They didn't blow out a whole lot of people either, but they figured out what they needed to do to win. And sometimes it was just enough. And look, the way the NFL is set up these days is you cannot build a dominating team on both sides of the ball. Free agency and the way the draft is just doesn't allow that. And the contracts, the way they're set up just does not allow you to keep a core group of guys together for a decade like the Vikings did back then.
Right.
So you still have to figure out a way with new guys shuffling in and out every year how to win football games when it's not your best day. And I'll tell you what, I'd rather have a team that does that like this team is doing than a team that just kind of decides, well, you know what, it's just not our day and we're going to pack it in, we're going to lose. That has not really happened yet when something bad has happened, like that missed extra point today. And then the Dolphins go right back down and score. This team for the last 4 or 5 years would have absolutely folded when that happened. And this team, the 2022 version, is not doing that.
You're exactly right. Or a team that starts out with 4 3-and-outs, done. They're not going to win.
Yeah.
Because 4 3-and-outs leads to gloom on the sidelines, leads to gloom with the defense, leads to gloom all the way. They're not winning a game. You are exactly right, Ted. They bounce back from the bad plays and find out a way to get it done. And that's awesome.
And there were at least a couple of times that I think people took note of. I don't know. There was one that it looked like there was some miscommunication between Cousins and Jefferson on a 3rd down, and Cousins went back to the sideline. And Cousins was visibly pissed off about something.
Yes.
And he went to O'Connell, and him and O'Connell were, going back and forth and whatever. I don't think he does that last year with Mike Zimmer. In fact, I know he doesn't do that last year with Mike Zimmer because, that's just part of, we said this numerous times before. He's got a coach now that doesn't actively hate his freaking guts, and he can do that kind of thing now.
Well, and when he tried to celebrate with Mike Zimmer at the end of the Lions game last year, Zimmer would have punched him if a coach hadn't intervened.
Yeah, but that's
Christ almighty!
That's a great point by Chris. That the fact that he can feel that he can express himself to his head coach is a big thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah, you're right, Chris. Because last year he would have just gone to the sidelines, and Drew, you talked about this the last couple of years. Kirk got that look, that body language, that defeatist body language. You just sit down and you look at your tablet and you just whatever and no emotion. I love seeing the emotion from Kirk, and I love him coming over to the sideline. And I don't think it was anything along what I referenced earlier was Zimmer and Kirk at the end of that Lions game. It was, what the hell is going on? Why were you calling that? Or whatever it was they were talking about. I'd like to hear what that was all about. But it was more of a dialogue between head coach and his quarterback out of, look, I'm frustrated and pissed off and I want to get better. Let's get better. And they did. Whereas last year with Mike Zimmer, that would not, you're right. 100% right. It would have never happened.
No. We're 5-1, guys.
We are 5-1, baby. 5-1. I would like, if the Vikings ever figure out how to play, remember the Bears, the first 3 drives against the Bears? How dominant they were when they started that Bears game. If they figure that out and they get that aggressive attacking kind of style, because they didn't have it today. They had it that game. If they get that mindset, they are going to be tough to beat in the NFC. They are. Today they had the 4 3-and-outs to start the game, and I'm thinking, part of me wasn't surprised, Ted. Part of me was going, Philly all over again because we're on the road, on the grass, whatever. But they didn't buckle, like you said. They didn't buckle.
I kind of expected a little bit of a struggle. I mean, just it's on the road, it's outside, it's humid. I mean, opposing teams have a tough time in Miami. I get it. I honestly will say I did not expect them to struggle that bad. Um, I will say though, when the offense was struggling, when that happened last year, the defense would just give up drive after drive. The Vikings would go 3 and out, 3 and out, 3 and out, and then the defense, it would just catch up to them, and then they would collapse and start giving up a whole bunch of points. And I will say the Vikings defense, after that first or second drive where Miami was called with, I think, 5 penalties on that one drive, the Vikings defense played a really good football game up until the last 3 or 4 minutes of the game. But I think a lot of that was just, look, let Miami get, we'll sacrifice yards for time, because they had a 2-score lead at that point. I mean, Darius Smith had a whale of a ball game. Right. Patrick Jones II had a whale of a ball game. Patrick Peterson had a whale of a ball game. Harrison Smith and Cam Bynum had that huge turnover. I'm still not sold on this Vikings defense, but man, they're making plays when a play needs to be made, and they were not doing that last year or the last few years.
I agree.
No, they definitely weren't.
You know what? Miami looked like the Vikings of last year.
Yeah.
Miami did a bunch of blunders to screw the game up. Everybody's talking about that Miami head coach being a genius. Come on.
He looked like an informant for Crockett and Tubbs.
He's terrible. Fuck. Come on. 2-point conversion at the end. I mean, you missed that.
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Just dumb. But they did enough to open the door for the Vikings, and the Vikings took advantage of it, and they won the game. O'Connell inside the 10, awesome play caller, and he's figuring out how to win. No matter how bad we play, we're going to win the game. And that's like a fever with the locker room, Ted. That shit spreads. It does.
It does. Mm-hmm. And when you can, so the Vikings, they had the one loss in Philly, but they had the close win against Detroit and today against Miami, the close win in England against the Saints. And I'm just, it's escaping me who the other 2 wins are, but at some point you have got to think, if the Vikings walk out onto the field now, they're thinking to themselves, we're going to figure out a way to win. And somebody either on offense or defense makes a play, and it happens. And you know what? You can say all you want about the Vikings not playing a complete football game and maybe not being a good team, but what does Bill Parcells famously say about the NFL?
You are what your record says you are.
You are what your record says you are.
That's right.
The Vikings are a pretty damn good football team right now, because they're figuring out ways to win. And I would rather be sitting here talking about a team that's 5-1, that's won 5 close games, as opposed to a team that's 2-4 and should be 5-1. So whatever.
Everybody in ESAT Nation can suck my sack, to be honest.
For those of you that are wondering what ESAT Nation is, that's the everything sucks all the time crowd. They can't find anything good for.
Oh, they're angry right now. Ted, they're angry. They are angry.
It is. I don't get it, man. I'm just be happy your team is 5. They got a 3-game lead on the Green Bay Packers. When you talk about tiebreaker, when you add that in, 3-game lead on the Green Bay Packers 6 games into the season. That's pretty damn good.
What you guys take on the O-line today?
Terrible. Absolutely terrible.
What is going on with that O-line? Was it
Bradbury just got his ass kicked all afternoon. We spent a lot. I've seen a lot of the social media stuff, and people were like, "Oh, maybe Bradbury's kind of figured it out." Nope, not after today.
Was Miami just disguising their blitz packages a lot, or were they just dominating us? What? It seemed like there was a lot of pressure back there in the pocket.
Yeah,
there was one where Bradbury let the guy come right up the middle and sack Kirk. And I saw on Twitter they thought maybe Kirk tried to slide the protection to one side, and there was a miscommunication on the line. But Bradbury struggled. Ed Ingram struggled. I saw Christian Darrisaw get moved back a few times. It reminded me of the special teams last week. The entire special teams stunk last week, and I think the entire offensive line kind of stunk this week. But again, look at it. The Minnesota Vikings, if the Minnesota Vikings offensive line sucked this bad last year, the Minnesota Vikings don't win the game.
No, right.
This year, they stunk the whole game for most of it anyways, and they figured out a way to win.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters. All right. Ruby, are you there? And are you ready to spin the wheel?
I am ready. We have...
Hi, Toonsis. Hi, Toonsis.
Hi. Here we go. We have a ton of people, as you can see.
Who got it?
Bob M., you are the winner.
I think Bob M. is a first-time winner.
That's not Bob from Bloomington, is it?
I don't think so. I hope not.
Bob M., you win.
Anyways, Bob, congratulations. If you're still watching, go to get a hold of Ruby at Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com. She will give you a link to the prize vault that we have. You'll be able to pick out a prize. We'll mail it out to you in a day or two. So, Bob M., congratulations. So, again, the Vikings head into the bye at 5-1. Before we get out of here, let's get your closing thoughts. Drew Bunting.
5-1, Ted. My thoughts don't matter. 5-1 matters. That's all that matters. We're figuring out how to be 5-1.
Yeah.
We're going into the bye at 5-1, which is exactly what Chris Gates said back in April. We're going to be 5-1 going into the bye. So this is basically, let's leave it to Chris. Chris knows what's going on a lot better than we do. That I am happy with the Vikings, happy as a Viking fan, and they are figuring out how to win games. And if you can't get on board with that, don't get on board.
Chris?
Yeah, absolutely. Like Drew said, it's really hard to argue with 5-1, especially, we got 3 divisional games out of the way at this point. We won all of those. So we got the tiebreaker over everybody. If anyone else comes sneaking up past Green Bay in the division. Now we got the bye week. Not really a whole lot of injury issues to recover from during the bye, which is a positive and probably part of what has been part of the reason for the Vikings' success so far. But if this team can continue putting things together over the course of the next few weeks, it's going to be a pretty exciting rest of the season run here, I think. So, yeah, there's really nothing to complain about at this point, I don't think.
Yeah, it's hard to be, if you're irritated with the Vikings sitting at 5-1 heading into the bye, I don't know what to tell you. I really don't. I don't. I mean, like go be an informant for Crockett and Tubbs. Whatever, man. I don't know. Look, man, 5-1, 3-game lead in the division, essentially with the tiebreaker. Heading into the bye, then they got the Cardinals and the Commanders, 2 very winnable games coming out of the bye. I don't think you could have envisioned a much better start for Kevin O'Connell and the Minnesota Vikings. It's sort of validating the Wolves' belief that they had talent on this roster. They just needed, better coaching. And so far, it's been proven right. They got they're like Chris said, they're very healthy injury wise. I'm telling you, it's a good time to be a Vikings fan. Enjoy this because it hadn't happened. I can't remember the last time the Vikings started 5-1. It's been a while. I'll take it, and I'll be happy and glad about it. We'll
hell yes,
absolutely.
And so I think that'll about do it for our Vikings Report Rewind for this show. We got another episode of Vikings Report Drew and Ted coming up next Sunday. I don't think we're doing a live post game because there's no post game next Sunday. So we'll let you know what's going on. But I don't think we're doing. Anyways, we'll figure something out.
We got a studio show coming out Friday, Ted.
Yeah, we got our studio show coming out Friday, and we'll go from there. But we will definitely be back for the pregame and the postgame in a couple of weeks when the Vikings return from their bye against the Arizona Cardinals. So for Ruby, for Drew, for Chris, thanks for watching. One last thing, Bob M. Again, don't forget Vikings Report with Drew and Ted at gmail.com to get to the link to the prize vault. Vikes are in first place, all alone in the NFC North. Skol Vikes, we will see you